What's going on, y'all? Philip here.
Julia here.
So today we have a fun video for you talking about some things we've learned recently about getting a master's degree while still in the military.
Right, we want to talk to you a little bit about TA, which is tuition assistance program in the Navy or in the military, and also, in our opinion, the most affordable and compatible master's degree um, for nuclear Navy officers.
Yeah, so if you want to find out how to save a bunch of money on your
Mm-hmm.
degree and not have to serve extra time during
Mm-hmm.
the military, like after your required time, then make sure you stick around. So, kicking it off first, just for some background information on us. So, we're both nuclear officers, nuclear
Mm-hmm.
surface warfare officers in the Navy. And we commissioned back in 2020, did our first tour, went through nuclear power school, and now we're doing our carrier tours. So, we have this tour left, and that's the end of our required commitment in the military.
Right. So in the military, normally for every year of the extra education the military pay for you, you have a 1 to 3 payback ratio. So every 1 month of education you receive, you have to do another 3 month back. So for example, if the Navy pay for 1 year long master, you have to, on top of the original commitment, like 5 years for us, you have to do another 3 years. So you'll be a grand total of 8 years,
Yep.
with the exception of TA. And
Yes.
Philip is going to dive in a little bit more.
Exactly. Thanks. So with TA, there isn't that requirement of that ratio.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I do 1 month here and I have to pay back this many months. So with
Mm-hmm.
TA, you just have to have 2 years left on your contract,
Mm-hmm.
or you have to stay in for 2 years after you finish however long you're doing TA. And
Mm-hmm.
one thing with TA is if you already have a degree at that level, you can't get another degree. So we both already have our bachelor's degrees,
Mm-hmm.
and Julia already has her master's degree. So she can't use TA to get another master's degree. But since I don't have a master's degree, hence I can use TA, which is what I'm doing now. There are several limitations with the number of courses you can take. And this is where it gets a little bit squirrely. If you're trying to finish your degree super fast, you don't really have that option. So it's meant to also be working in the military like we are and
Mm-hmm.
be able to do a degree in the background. So the most courses you can take at any one time are two. Maybe during college you took like 5 or 6, but now you're limited to 1 or 2 at a time. And that caps out at 18 credits per calendar year. So that's the most you can do at any one time.
For sure. I want to expand on what Philip was talking about earlier. So, so for example, I already have a master's degree, and the highest that TA can go is actually just a master's degree. So you cannot pursue a PhD with TA, and also you cannot go down. So, for example, I cannot say I want to go another bachelor's degree. However, I can still use TA for certified programs. So, for example, if I want to be a plumber, certified plumber, I can then still use TA. I actually look into TA for like yoga teaching. So that is not allowed. It has to be a certified school with certified program. You cannot just be like, oh, I want to do like go to like a random French cooking class or this and that. It has to be certified by the government, by the TA program.
Yep, exactly. That's
Mm-hmm.
all great information. And so with the TA, you're
Mm-hmm.
probably wondering, oh, how much does it pay for? So certain schools do matching for
Mm-hmm.
TA. You can look into that with your specific program you want to know. So a lot of things you might have heard of, like Yellow
Mm-hmm.
Ribbon for the 9/11 GI Bill, where they will match how much like extra you have to pay on top of what you're granted. My certain program does not do that, but it's already a really affordable program, so we're not too worried about it. So with Old Dominion specifically, the reason why we picked it is because we're both nukes. So this is where the nuke aspect comes in. That finished nuclear power school, so that counts. That 6 months period where we took all those classes is actually good for something outside of the Navy, which is really cool. So we can get a master's in engineering management from Duke or Old Dominion. So obviously Duke is probably a bigger name that you've heard of.
Definitely bigger, right?
Yeah,
Than Old Dominion.
but with that comes a lot more money. So just baseline numbers, you're looking at about 12,000 versus like 50, 60,000 for this degree, even with the credits they allow you. So Duke is originally 32 credits, and they'll cut it down, or excuse me, 30 credits, but they cut it down to 24. So that
Mm-hmm.
they give you 2 classes, whereas Old Dominion is 31, but they cut out 4 classes, so it drops down to 19. And we
Mm-hmm.
talked about how TA is good for 18 credits in a year. So you can basically do that in 1 year, just over a year, which
Mm-hmm.
is pretty cool.
Right. I want to just expand on like how much TA pay for you each year a little bit more. So TA is capped at $250 per semester hour or $166 per quarter hour with a maximum of $4,500 per fiscal year, right? If you have pursued a higher education, you know how expensive schools are now. So like with a cap of $4,500,
Yeah,
it's really not that much, especially for a master's degree. So for
absolutely.
my Johns Hopkins master's degree, which is conveniently hanging in the background, I got a 50% scholarship. Yeah, it cost me $35,000. So, TA just depends on what program you want to do. TA, I guess, is not that great. So like that's why there is a differentiation between GI Bill and TA. So tuition assistance is meant for you to pursue, like something that's doable while you're in the military. And
Absolutely.
GI Bill is more for like going to school full time
Hmm.
after the military. And Yellow Ribbon is more often given out with GI Bill.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. So the
Mm-hmm.
yellow ribbon that she was talking about, like those programs are literally you get a BAH if you're familiar with that for
Right.
E6 with dependents. So it's meant to like be living at the school and working there
Mm-hmm.
and going to school full time. What we're talking about, like $4,000 isn't much.
It's not.
If I were to use that for Duke, 4,000 out of the 50, 60, that's not even 10%. So it
No.
really wasn't a big dent. But if
Yeah.
I'm getting that for 4,500, almost 5,000 with the 19 credits, for Old Dominion, and I'm only paying a little over 10,000. It's basically half the degree paid for. And I do want to clarify the matching I talked about with TA. So Old Dominion does do it, but only for undergraduate programs.
Mm-hmm.
So that is a distinction that a lot of schools will probably make as well. And you're also looking at a lot more credits for that. If you're doing an undergraduate program throughout, several years or more in the military service because you plan on staying in for a long time and you just want to chip away at your degree, which a lot of people do, and it's a
Mm-hmm.
great option. If you're doing
Absolutely.
120 credits, over the course of a degree, that really adds up. Like 250 per every single credit.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, for me, only doing 19, it's definitely not as much, which is why we ended up going with Old Dominion.
Yeah, and if you're, like sitting on the edge of your seat, like cannot wait to start using TA, right? There are certain requirements for TA. So, for example, my command, so the Jiangxi Stennis, you have to be senior in rate in order to use TA, and your TA is a special request sheet that need to be approved by your division officer. So, for example, like in my division, a few sailors have started using TA. They're all like both hard charging second class, right? Who has qualified the highest they can go in their rate, the highest qualification they can go before they can start using it. And for Philip, you are also you have to be a lieutenant to use it, right?
Yep, exactly. So at
Mm-hmm.
my command, you have to be an O3.
Right.
So at least for officers, so you can't be an
Mm.
O1 or O2 that's just fresh, out of
Yeah.
college and OCS or whatever, and come and expect to use TA right
Mm-hmm.
away. So yeah,
Yeah.
with that, that's why I wanted to start using it as soon as I could. So we got here and I put on O3 pretty
Mm-hmm.
quickly, and we were looking at my timeline and just like, even if I wanted to do a short tour, if I was to wait until my short tour to use TA,
Mm-hmm.
I'd be cutting it pretty close with that required 2-year
Right.
commitment. So even if, like, for example, we get to the end of our short tour and we don't want to stay in for whatever reason, or
Mm-hmm.
we'll make that decision when the time comes. But
Mm-hmm.
it would put me in a bind if I was already a year and a half into our short tour and I was still on TA because there's a 2-year requirement after that. But
Yeah.
doing it
Absolutely.
now absolutely
Oh,
avoids
just
that.
another little plug. So some sailors I see that they do like TA to get an associate degree, and then like after the Navy they use GI Bill to get their like undergrad, bachelor or master's degree. So that's a way you can go as well.
Tons of different options,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. And then one last thing we wanted to show you, or these were two of the classes that I'm taking from ODU. So this is just what the binder looks like.
Mm-hmm.
I bought this as part of the class. You have to get textbooks as well, and they'll send you, there are literally CDs in here. So this is a master's in engineering management with portable media. So I can literally go offline and they will send the exams to my ESO, my
Mm-hmm.
education service officer, I believe, for my ship. Every ship should have one, or command, and they will proctor your exams. So you don't have to, if you're under like going on deployment or you're on shift work or you just have weird working hours because you're in the military. This gives you an opportunity with TA to depending on what program you do and how you do it, you can be exempt from those normal like classroom times,
Mm-hmm.
or even attending an online class at a specific time every single day, which is really awesome as well.
Absolutely. And we just think that ODU program is like very, very affordable, right? Compared to any other program you can find and extremely compatible with our current schedule. I don't see us like doing any other schedule unless we can do full remote and self-paced. And
Absolutely.
also, right, like ODU might not be an Old Dominion University if you've never heard of it. It might not be very famous, but they do have a very good engineering program, and they are like, famous and a popular option among people in our situation. So they're still recognized by industry. You might not have a name like Harvard or Yale or Duke, but it's still a respectable school. And now more and more often, master's degree is more or less just a check in the box. Like you don't really learn like the skills. Like you honestly learn by doing things, right? Like you learn by hands-on, like at your job, not just an empty degree. Um,
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
we think this is a great option to just at least get a master's degree before we leave the military, in case we don't want to take another 2 years out of our time, in case if we just want to start
Yep.
working at a civilian job right after the
Mm-hmm.
military.
Yeah, and Julia might end up doing a master's in engineering management from ODU just
Mm-hmm.
without TA, and she already has her master's, so she can't use TA, but she can
ten
pay a
thousand
little bit
dollars
extra
That is
for a
so cheap.
master's
That is
degree.
like, yeah,
No,
that
it's
is like
really nice.
that is what
Super
a
affordable.
quarter of my previous master's degree. So very affordable and great on your resume for engineering management. And again, put your nuclear power school knowledge and time and energy that you spend there,
Absolutely. Yeah.
actually transfer that to something that's recognized by the civilian world.
Awesome. Well, I hope you
Mm-hmm.
enjoyed this video. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the description below,
Mm-hmm.
and we will catch you in the next one. Bye.